Hey guys, Popo here bringing guys a new video, and today we're going to be ranking every single Pokemon that is in Series 8 against each other, of course. So there's going to be a lot of changes to how the meta is going to go now that these restricteds are allowed, because some Pokemon might lose some usage, as some might gain some usage that you might not expect. One extreme example of this is probably going to be Moltres, as Moltres will probably drop a lot, seeing as Yveltal is just a better Moltres. But I mean, it's yet to be seen because it could go up because people want to run Moltres to help counter the Calyrex. But we will see kind of how that goes. But we're going to go through the list right here. I've already separated. I couldn't find a list of just the sort of viable-ish Pokemon. So I had to go through and do all these. These are the non-usables. These are the ones that are like, don't use these. They're like pre-evolutions and stuff. And we might add some more Pokemon to that pending, because there's some Pokemon in this list that are pretty bad, but they are like final evolutions or whatever like that. So they might get thrown in there as well. So without further ado, because this is going to be a long one, let's get started. You will see that the Dynamax forms are before the regular forms. I'm always going to do the regular form first. Same goes with any of the forms that are like combined forms like Kyurem and stuff like that. I'm always going to do the first form first. So first Pokemon we have is Venusaur, and Venusaur is actually pretty decent. Even without the Dynamax, it is extremely good. I mean, it has the Sleep Powder, it has the Leaf Storm, it has, you know, ground coverage. It's really good with Chlorophyll, of course. And there's a new Chlorophyll Pokemon out there, which is, or another Drought Pokemon out there, which is Groudon. So, yeah, we're gonna put, I believe he's gonna be about B tier. And the only reason why he's B tier is because I think that the Gigantamax one is just slightly better, because his Vine Whip does all that damage in between turns, which is pretty significant. Setting up the Grassy Terrain is okay, but it's not as good as doing tons and tons of chip damage for 5 turns. So yeah, I think that's definitely A, and he is a very viable option for Dynamax, especially if you are running Groudon, because Groudon's actually pretty good if you don't Dynamax him as well. So I think Dynamaxing the Venusaur could be a really, really good option, especially if you don't want Sleep Powder. You can take people by surprise. Next, we have Charizard. Charizard's another one of these. I think regular Charizard is actually really, really good. We're going to put regular Charizard in A. Solar Power is great. He can set his own sun back. It's pretty decent. I think he's going to be really good. I think there's going to be a sun meta, especially at the beginning here. Which brings me to Charizard G-Max, which, hot take, I think he's S tier. He is extremely, extremely good. And yes, there are a lot of good Pokemon that resist him that are being added, but then there's Pokemon that don't resist him, and he can actually take a pretty good hit. Kyogre is going to be one of the most used Pokemon, and of course that is a big drawback to Charizard, but I think overall, if the Sun team is working, Charizard is going to be fantastic. He has such good coverage. He gets Airstream, which is the best max move, and his G-Max Wildfire is literally the best G-Max move. It is so insane. It does tons and tons of damage, because essentially he has 2 Life Orbs. You run Life Orb plus Solar Power, and then on top of that, the Sun's up, plus you also are doing that chip damage every turn. It's just massive, massive, massive damage. So I think right now he's going to be S. We could see him drop down, and if so, then regular Charizard would drop down to B as well. But I think S tier as of right now. Next we have Wartortle. I think Wartortle is actually pretty decent. It's a pretty bulky support Pokemon. It gets things like Fake Out, Icy Wind. It can Scald. It can do a couple of things that are pretty interesting. So I just wanted to include it on here. I do think it is a D tier, but it could be a fun little Pokemon to use if you want to try something different and not just the same kind of support Pokemon. Take somebody by surprise, maybe. Helping Hand as well, which is nice. Blastoise Shell Smash was pretty decent in the Players' Cup, but he just gets so significantly outmatched now by Kyogre that it's not even funny. He's definitely a D tier. I think he's slightly better than Wartortle just overall, but yeah, and even though this thing does have the same kind of ability for the Gmax move as both Charizard and Venusaur. I just think it's significantly weaker because it's just Blastoise with a little bit extra damage. And once again, it still gets just outmatched by Kyogre every single time. Next, we have Butterfree. I think Butterfree is not very good. Of course, it does get the Sleep Powder, which is boosted by its, I think is it Tinted Lens or is it Compound? I think it's Compound Eyes. Boosts its accuracy. So, I mean, that's decent. Though it is very, very frail, and it's pretty slow at 70 base speed, so I don't think it's super good. Though I think that the Gmax form is actually a C tier because of its Gmax move is really good, where it can just put a status effect on both Pokemon. Of course, it's a random status effect, so you get what you get, but it can also be, paralysis, or it can be poison. Poison's the worst one. You don't want that, so if you can hit the sleeps off of his move, you're going to be good to go. Next, we have Pikachu. I think Pikachu is really bad. It's just not very good. It can do some damage with Light Ball, Light Ball, I think is what it's called. Volt Tackle, but I mean, that's about it. But Gmax Pikachu is also D tier. He can paralyze things, but he's just so frail that he doesn't really add anything to your team. You're better off just using that slot for something else. Lightning Rod, of course, is going to bump him up a little bit. He can be used next to Kyogre, but you're usually going to want max Kyogre and not max Pikachu. Then we got Alolan Raichu. I think is also a D tier. He is pretty weak. His typing is meh, and his ability doesn't really do too much unless Electric Terrain is out, which if you're running him plus Koko, you're just going to be so weak to things like Groudon or Landorus that it's not even worth really running. So next we have Raichu. I think Raichu is probably a B tier. It gets Fake Out, it has Lightning Rod. It's going to help protect Kyogre in a lot of situations, as well as being able to set up things like Nuzzle or screens. And he's pretty fast at 110, so I think Raichu is going to be pretty decent. You're going to see him on a lot of Kyogre teams as a switch-in against, electric Pokemon like Koko and stuff like that. Next, we have Sandslash. We'll go with regular Sandslash. He's terrible. Don't use Sandslash. Just use Landorus. Sandslash is not worth using. I'm going to put this in D tier, the Lowland Sandslash. I think in some gimmick teams he can be okay, but overall he's just really bad, and the 4x weakness to fighting is just not good for him since there's so many Pokemon that get Max Knuckle now, and that's just pretty much, hey, I'm going to attack into this, and that's a free +1 for me, so. Nidoqueen, I'm going to put C, because Nidoqueen is pretty decent. It can do a lot of damage. It kind of does feel lackluster at times. I am using it in my draft league, and I can tell you that the damage output isn't as significant as I would want it to be. Though, it is a good Pokemon that you can't max. So if you need something where you're like, okay, I need a damage dealer who's mid-tier speed that, is kind of bulky, Nidoqueen will be decent for you, though its weakness to both ice and ground is going to be kind of hard. Nidoking is just worse. He does a lot more damage, but I don't want to say a lot more damage. He does some more damage, but he's not nearly as bulky. Next, we have Clefairy. So Clefairy is an interesting one. I think the usage of Clefairy is going to climb, even though it's already pretty good. I think it's an A tier. Next to something like Calyrex or something like actually any of the new mons. You can use it next to Calyrex Ice or Calyrex Shadow to set up Trick Room, or just a Nasty Plot, or just go for Astral Barrage, or whatever you need to be doing. Clefairy is going to be good for that. It helps mitigate some of the damage that Pokemon is going to take, and if you have something like Calyrex Ice, who already isn't taking a lot of damage, this thing is going to be kind of insane. So next is Clefable. I think Clefable is a C, and the reason why I think it's a C is because it's pretty decent on the teams with Chansey right now. So it can not only follow me and let you set up your minimizes, but it can do the same thing itself, right? So it can't be burned. Well, it can be burned and poisoned, but the burn and poison don't affect it, which is an advantage as well, especially if you're going for one of those kind of minimized teams, because it won't take anything but actual damage from an attack. So pretty interesting in that, because you can't kill it with terrains or nothing like that, and then you can have something, you know, like leftovers or a 50% berry or something like that. It doesn't have reliable healing as Chansey does, but on those teams it is very, very annoying. Next we have Alolan. I mean, not Alolan. We have regular Ninetales. I think regular Ninetales is a C tier. I think this Pokemon will rise in usage, as teams are going to want to have the sun up against Kyogre, and Ninetales is a pretty decent option over Torkoal, because Torkoal is so slow, whereas Ninetales does outspeed things like the Kyogre, where you can Encore or Protect or something like that. So I think Ninetales might be pretty decent. It also gets Hypnosis, which isn't super reliable, but it does have that option. But I think the Encore option is going to be a pretty decent one. Next we have Alolan Ninetales. I think Alolan Ninetales is just a little bit better. Of course, it can set up its own Aurora Veil, which is really nice. It's going to help protect your Pokemon. I think you could see some hail options going forward, because there's going to be sun and water or rain options. So if you want to get rid of those, you know, Alolan Ninetales is going to be a decent option. Of course, it does outspeed the Kyogre, so leading it is a little risky. But once you do get it out and set up that Aurora Veil, you're going to be able to take hits a lot better. We got Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff's bad. It doesn't really do too much. It does get competitive, which is pretty decent. Cineroar is going to see a rise, so if you want something that's different that also has the competitive, Wigglytuff might be your mon. I don't know. Its damage is still pretty lackluster, so... Golbat, I left Golbat on here because you can use Eviolite Golbat, but I still think it's just bad, so I wouldn't really use it. I don't think it's worth going into the do not use tier, because I think there is a little bit of a usage for it, but I think overall it's just not good enough, kind of thing. Let me scroll up slightly more here. Okay. Vileplume. Vileplume's pretty bad. It does get Sleep Powder, but it's so frail that it's just not really worth using. Whereas something like a Moongus is just a better version. So yeah, don't really use this. Alolan Dugtrio is bad. Don't use him. He has way too many weaknesses. He's just very frail. He's fast, but he has nice hair, so. Regular Dugtrio also bad, but he does get Arena Trap, which is okay, and he has less weaknesses than the Alolan one, but still, I wouldn't use him. He's just not very, very good. Very fast, but we have Persian. Persian's bad. Don't use Persian. It does get Fake Out. I think that's pretty much it. Alolan Persian. So I used Alolan Persian back in 2017 against teams with like Groudon and Kyogre, and it was okay. It does get Snarl, which is nice. I'm going to put it in C tier. Fake Out Snarl is pretty decent. Of course, Fake Out's a little less viable against these mons because they do Dynamax now, but it does outspeed like most of those Pokemon except Calyrex, I believe, but it does resist Calyrex's moves. So in that opinion, it could be pretty decent. So this could be one of those Pokemon that you pick that surprises somebody. It also gets Taunt, I believe. So you can do something like that because it's non-priority. It gets Fluffy, so it's pretty bulky on the physical end. It is weak to fire attacks, but it's hard because it is weak to Max Knuckle as well. So in some situations, this Pokemon's going to be just terrible. But yeah, I think it could be okay. Golduck is just pretty terrible. There's just way better water options. Arcanine has lost all of his usefulness. Poor Arcanine. He was so good in like series 1 through 5, but then Incineroar came out and Arcanine kind of died again. Don't really use Arcanine. You can use Arcanine if you really want a faster Snarl user, but he's just going to be way too weak to Kyogre and not really be able to do any damage back to almost any Pokemon. So, yeah, he's just not that good. Poliwrath is one of these Pokemon that I love the design of Poliwrath, but he's just so bad. He's actually going to go in the do not use. He does get Swift Swim, but his damage output is just terrible. It's just not good. I'm gonna put Alakazam here because he does get the expanding force stuff. He is really fast. He's another one who's extremely weak to Calyrex, so it's gonna be extremely hard to use him. But next to Indeedee, he was okay for a little while, but I just don't think he's good. Don't wait, we're gonna do the regular form first. Oops, messing everything up. All right, Machamp. So Machamp's not very good, but my friend Wheezy actually piloted Machamp to top 1,000 on the ladder, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, so Machamp, not great. He does get a couple of cool moves. With the Sylvest, he can take a hit, but one of his main weaknesses is how weak he is to Max Airstream, and Max Airstream, of course, is the best Max move, so it's hard to put him anywhere else. Then we have G-Max Machamp, who is just terrible. Do not use him. Regular Machamp is just better. Max Knuckle is just better. His max move gives you better chance at crit, but it's still only 90 power fighting, so you might as well get the +1 attack. It's going to be more consistent. Next, we have Tentacruel. I think Tentacruel could be pretty decent. His typing is actually really good. He's pretty bulky. Kyogres are going to be pretty big, so he's going to be really good against that. He is not very great against Calyrex, but he's also pretty decent against Xerneas teams. As Xerneas cannot hit him for super effective. He's also okay against Zacian, as Zacian doesn't really have anything that hits him for super effective. He actually resists all the main moves that Zacian is going to use, so he's not bad. And he can burn back, and he can also poison Pokemon. He gets Sludge Bomb, he gets Scald. So I think he could be pretty good. We could see some Tentacruels going forward. This is terrible. Do not use this. It doesn't do anything. This is terrible. Do not use this. It doesn't do anything. So next we have Slowpoke. And the reason why I left Slowpoke in here, because with Eviolite, you can do some work. He's actually pretty bulky. So if you really want to, you could use one of these as your Trick Room setter. There are, of course, way better options than this. But, I mean, if you want something different and to be like, okay, I beat people with Slowpoke, then yeah, it's fine. Galarian Slowbro, he's not very good. His Quick Draw is okay, but at the same time, all it really does is just put you first in that speed bracket. So if you go for Trick Room and you get that off, you're just going to be the first one to do Trick Room. So keep that in mind. It doesn't like make him have priority Trick Room or something like that. But his move is pretty decent. But other than that, he's just pretty lackluster. He doesn't really do super tons of damage. His typing is okay, but he's just going to be really weak to Calyrex as well. So is Slowpoke, so keep that in mind. Calyrex is going to be one of the most used Pokemon. Then we got regular Slowbro, same thing. I think he's a little bit better because he has the better typing with the water as well. So, yeah. Next we have Magneton. I think Magneton's pretty bad, but he is usable. With Eviolite, he's actually pretty bulky, but his weakness to fire is significant, and his weakness to ground is insane. You can use Magnet Rise, but he's pretty slow, so it's hard to get it off. You could still use him. We have Cloyster. I think Cloyster's terrible. He is pretty bulky on the physical side, and his skill link allows him to hit with his Icicle Spears. But other than that, he's pretty bad. So Haunter, I think Haunter is a D tier, but he is a pretty decent gimmick, as you can go for like Choice Scarf, Destiny Bond, to get a free kill on something, which is pretty fun. So keep that in mind. If somebody's going Kyogre, you can do Destiny Bond. If they do Max, it does not work. But if they are just going for Water Spouts, if you think they're just going for Water Spouts, Haunter can take a name right away, getting rid of their main restricted Pokemon. So then we have regular Gengar. I think regular Gengar is a D, though it does have some pretty nice things. I mean, of course, it has, like Perish Song. It also has things like Sludge Bomb that will hit pretty hard, especially on things like Xerneas. So if you want like a Glass Cannon sort of Pokemon, this is going to be your choice. You can also do things like Protect, Disable, allowing you to just disable maybe one of their Pokemon. Once again, it doesn't work on max Pokemon, so you got to be careful about that, but not too bad overall. I also think that his max form, it doesn't do anything more except just trap your opponent's Pokemon. So he's not much better. You're usually not going to want to max him only because of the fact that he's probably going to get one shot anyways, and he's super weak to Calyrex. Next we have Kingler. Kingler's pretty bad. His attack is pretty high, but other than that, he doesn't really do too much. His max form's a little bit better. If you're going to use him, definitely use the max form, because his max ability lowers your opponent's speed. So it's not bad. It's not a bad move. It doesn't set up the rain, unfortunately, but that's okay. Next we have Exeggutor. So for those who know, to Players Cup 3, I actually brought Alolan Exeggutor, and I got up to 1648 before I had a terrible day 3, and actually just threw the whole Players Cup. So I actually think he's actually pretty good, and I think his usage might rise because he does survive a Water Spout from Kyogre, allowing him to set up Trick Room through Kyogre, which is pretty good. And we're going to put both of these here. They get Sleep Powder, which is significant as well. Sleep Powder is really, really good. Being able to set up Trick Room and then go for Sleep Powders is a lot of fun. They also get Bulldoze, so you can bulldoze, your Trick Room your Trick Room sweeper, and get off weakness policies. So they can do a lot. They can also set up screens if you want them to go that way. And Energy Ball does a significant amount of damage to Pokemon like Feeny, so I'm assuming it's going to do a significant amount of damage as well to Kyogre, so keep that in mind. Next we have Marowak. I think Marowak's pretty bad. He's just not good. He gets Lightning Rod, which is pretty decent, but he's just worse than the Ghost form. And I think the Ghost form is actually A tier. Against a lot of these restricteds, he's actually really, really good. In a Trick Room team, he can be used, and even in a non-Trick Room team, I think he's going to be pretty viable. Zacian doesn't really hit him with anything super effective. You can switch in onto a close combat from Zacian, and Flare Blitz just one-shots Zacian, as does Bonerang. So he has options to take care of Zacian. He can hit other Pokemon that might be weak to ground or fire, and pretty much one-shot those, and as well as getting Poltergeist to do massive amounts of damage. Poltergeist one-shots a Dusclops, so keep that in mind, because it is pretty significant in some cases. Hitmonchan and Hitmontop, they're both going to go here. If you're going to use, or not Hitmontop, Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. If you're going to use one, Hitmonlee's better. He's a little bit more bulky. He can still output damage. Blaze Kick is really good, as his high jump kick, whereas Machamp, yeah. Hitmontop doesn't, Hitmonchan doesn't really get any strong moves. He does get Mach Punch, Bullet Punch, but it's just not good enough. And I think that Hitmonlee actually gets Bullet Punch as well, because I think it's an egg move. Lickitung, I forgot to put this here. My bad. So Weezing and Galarian Weezing. I think Weezing is actually an A tier. Weezing is really, really good. Regigigas is continuing to be a threat, and I think it's actually going to increase in usage. Switching out a Weezing can allow you to get multiple boosts off of on your Zacian, which is pretty significant as well. So, yeah, I think it can do a lot of things. I think Worry Seed is going to pick up in usage, maybe from Whimsicott or something like that, to help mitigate some of that that crazy synergy that it has with some Pokemon. It can also be used on teams that aren't using Regigigas. I think great examples of that will be teams that have like Yveltal and stuff like that, whereas these Pokemon can still output a lot of damage without having their abilities and being able to stop your opponent's crazy abilities, like setting up the rain or setting up terrain is going to be kind of significant. So I think Weezing is going to continue to be really good. I think Galarian Weezing is slightly worse because he has worse weaknesses. Of course, he's weak to Steel. It's crazy to say that Weezing is actually a good Pokemon. They both get Will-O-Wisp, which is also really, really good. Just solid Pokemon overall, I think. So, next we have Rhydon. I think Rhydon's pretty bad, but Eviolite Rhydon can be pretty bulky, but Rhyperior is just significantly better and still not even that good. Next we have Chansey. I think Chansey is a C tier. Chansey teams right now are kind of going wild. Well, in Series 7. We'll see what they do in Series 8. course, Dynamax does help prevent some of that, but when you have things like the Clefable be able to take away those hits, especially from the Max Knuckles and stuff like that, it could help a lot. So Kangaskhan might see some usage because he can fake out Ghost Pokemon, which will be pretty nice because you can fake out things like Calyrex or hit them with, Last Resorts or something like that. So he could be pretty decent. We'll see. It's going to be one of those tough call kind of Pokemon. He's not very bulky, and he is weak to a lot of other things, and he doesn't really have the damage output. But I think in certain use cases, he could be used. Seaking's not going to be used really. It's kind of weak. It does get Lightning Rod, which is a boost. So people who want to run like mono water now that Kyogre's out, he's going to be definitely a choice that you're going to have on every single one of those teams. But other than that, I don't know. Mr. Mime's pretty bad. He's not bulky enough. His weakness to Steel is too much. His weakness to Calyrex is too much. He's not very good. Galarian Mr. Mime is slightly better, but still not great. His ice typing is okay. Of course, he's weak to fighting, but yeah, I think he's meh. We got Scyther. Eviolite Scyther is okay. He's not great. When he maxes, he's okay. He does have pretty good damage, but yeah, he just falls to the same weaknesses as all the other bugs, whereas they're just get destroyed by any fire Pokemon pretty much. Next we have Jinx. I think Jinx is pretty decent. We saw a Jinx team get to #1 on the ladder. Of course, it has like the lovely Kiss that puts to sleep, as well as Ice Beams. It's going to be pretty good because it's going to be able to do a lot of damage to some of the new restricteds, though it has a base like 35 defense, so it doesn't take hits well. It dies to Calyrex, so I don't know. I think it's okay, but I don't think it's super great. Electabuzz and Magmar are pretty bad. They don't really do too much. Magmortar and Electivire are just significantly better. Pinsir has always been bad. Poor guy, just hasn't gotten anything. Tauros teams are fun. I think Tauros is a C just because of what it can do. Its damage output is insane. It's just a little too slow. Other than that, I think it's pretty fun to use, though. If you've ever used one of those Tauros Anger Point teams, it is pretty fun. I think that Gyarados is pretty bad. It could see a rise in usage, but Regieleki is just way too strong. Lapras is not super great. Don't use regular Lapras. It doesn't do anything that Gmax Lapras just doesn't do better. Gmax Lapras is going to go to C tier. Of course, Regieleki and Rillabooms are going to see a rise in usage, so it's going to be hard to use the Lapras going forward. Ditto. I think Ditto is an A tier. Ditto is going to be absolutely insane. If it changes into a Zacian, it actually gets +2 attack. And you can have an item on it like Life Orb or Choice Band or Choice Scarf. So it's going to be actually insane. Ditto is going to be very, very strong, especially in a 1 restricted format, because it doesn't limit you to bringing both of your restricteds almost every time. This is going to be you having 2 restricted to your opponent's 1 restricted. Gmax Eevee is terrible. I forgot to take Eevee off here. But yeah, Gmax Eevee is terrible. Its move, I don't even remember what it does, but it's just not good. It just has no bulk, nothing like that. Vaporeon could see a rise in usage. I think it's still going to be a D tier mon because it doesn't have the damage output. Usually you're going to use it as a support. You're going to have like Scald, Helping Hand. You're going to have, maybe Aqua Ring, something like that to keep it alive. But it's just not very good. I know Wolfie had some success with Jolteon, but Jolteon just gets super outmatched by Regieleki. Flareon could be used on some gimmick teams, but it's not very good. Porygon, I think, could see some usage as Porygon Z has continued to increase in usage. Or Porygon 2, has increased in usage. Porygon underspeeds it, is still really, really bulky, and can set up Tricking himself. So you might see a sort of 1 or 2 Porygons. I don't think it's a terrible Pokemon at all. It just doesn't have the damage output as Porygon 2, but some people might be like, I don't want to use Porygon 2, because that's meta. Yeah, Omastar is not very good. He gets Swift Swim, but other than that, he's not very good. Same with Kabutops. They have too many weaknesses. The Rock Water typing is just really bad because it's 4 times weak to grass, so you don't want that. It's also weak to fighting, electric. It's just not great. I wish Aerodactyl was good because I really like Aerodactyl's design, but he's just not good. Snorlax, I'm gonna put him in C tier because I think he's pretty decent. He's really bulky. Gluttony is always gonna be good, so I think he's really good, and I think that Gmax one is actually B tier. I think he's gonna see an increase in usage because Trick Room might see an increase in usage with all these new fast Pokemon that are out there. He also has immunity to Calyrex's Astral Barrage, which could be a significant boost to him as well. He gets Crunch, which would pretty much one-shot Calyrex, so he's not bad. He's not bad. I think Cantonian Articuno is really bad. Don't use it. It's just not worth it. I think Galarian Articuno could see a little bit of a rise because Incineroars are going to see a rise in usage, even though they're already way up there. I think they're going to actually go up more. And of course, he has that competitive ability, so it's going to give him a little bit of boost. You can run Weakness Policy on him, or you can run something like Assault Vest, and he's still going to be decent because there's going to be stat drops, and he's going to get boosted. So I think he's pretty decent. Zapdos I think is an A tier. Zapdos is really, really good. It's really good against like Kyogre teams because he does outspeed Kyogre and can get off not only a max lightning, but he can get off max airstreams and max flares to get rid of that rain. So I think Zapdos is really, really good. I think Galarian Zapdos is also C tier because once again we're going to see a rise in those Incineroars, and yeah, he's going to get a +1 attack every time Incineroar comes out. You can max him. He can max Knuckle into Incineroar to do massive damage. He can't be parting shotted. If they want to Snarl, they're just going to give him another +2 attack. So Cantonian Moltres, not very good. There's going to be an increase in rock type attacks coming out. So he's just kind of weak. This is a hot take. I'm going to put him in B tier. I'm going to put him in B tier because of how good he is against Calyrex. He is just Yveltal Light at this moment. I think he's still going to be good. And once again, he doesn't take your restricted spot, so you can use him next to something like Zacian. So Moltres Zacian teams might be pretty big as they kind of cover each other's weaknesses. So you could see something like that. Dragonite, he's a gimmick, but he's not super, super good. He can use the weakness policy, of course, but yeah. Mewtwo, I think, is actually going to be an A tier. It gets Hurricane now. Hurricane is insane. You can max this thing and go for airstreams. Of course, it's, once again, weak to Calyrex, and that's going to be a theme that you're going to see through these, and that's the only thing that's really holding Mewtwo back is that weakness to Calyrex and the weakness to Urshifu. Though the calcs with the Urshifu, he actually takes a hit pretty insanely. He also gets like a bunch of good sidekick attacks, and yeah, he has pretty good coverage as he gets almost every coverage type in the game. So you can get rid of the rain, you can get rid of the sun if you want. He also, like I said, gets the airstream. You're going to run a sidekick attack. Him next to Indeedee plus Expanding Force is going to do massive amounts of damage. So yeah, Mewtwo I think is going to be really good, and he's kind of one of those sleeper Pokemon. Don't use Noctowl. Crobat never really lived up to the hype. Everybody was excited Crobat was coming back. Some people did use him early on, but he just seemed lackluster the whole time. Lantern's pretty bad. It does have Volt Absorb and Water Absorb, so it could be good against Kyogre, but overall it's not very good. Togetic is okay with Eviolite. He does the same things that Togekiss does, except he's just weaker. That's about it. Xatu, you can do stuff with like stored power. Still not very good though. This is bad. Don't use Blossom. I wish Blossom was good because I like Blossom's design and everything, but Blossom's just not good. I'm gonna put this Asmodee. Yeah, I'm gonna put Asmodee in C tier. Asmodee gets some pretty decent moves, and along with stuff like huge power, it's going to do a lot of damage. It can kind of sit there against Yveltals as well, though it doesn't take its max airstreams too well. it does pretty decent against it, especially if you get a belly drum off. This thing can be really, really scary. But you might see an increase in Gastrodons and Cradilli, so be careful. This is terrible. Never use this. Politoed. I think Politoed's a C tier. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as Kyogre, but I think you're going to see it on Calyrex Ice teams to stop from eruptions from going off. So I think it will see an increase in usage. It's not super, super great against everything. Don't use this. This thing is terrible. I'm going to put Espeon in D tier. It's not super great. Magic Bounce is pretty good, but other than that, it's not great. Umbreon, I'm actually going to put in C tier. I think Umbreon's going to increase in usage as it pretty much walls Calyrex. Calyrex can't do anything against it, neither can Indeedee, so the Indeedee Calyrex leads are going to be pretty much nullified by this Pokemon going for Snarls. So, yeah. I don't think this thing is very good. I meant to do the other one first, but I don't think it's really good. It's weak to Calyrex, it's weak to Groudon, it's just, I don't know, it's not great, its move's not great, its ability is okay as it can get rid of Intimidates on your Pokemon, but other than that, it's not super, super great. I like Slowking, but I also don't think it's super great. I think it's pretty weak. It does get Oblivious, so can't be taunted, but not great. Do not use Wobbuffet. He is pretty bad. Do not use Dunsparce, as he is pretty bad. I think Steelix could see a little bit of usage. Body Press is, of course, good, and he has a really high defense, so yeah. Don't use this. It's pretty bad. It does get Intimidate and Poison typing. I wish Scizor was good. The days of Scizor are gone. I did use Scizor for a little while in Series 7. Actually got me to Master Ball, but he's just not super good. He does do a lot of damage with Choice Band, but with Groudon and with Kyogre and Calyrex, he's just not going to have the output. So the Heracross, I think Heracross is in the game, but I don't think he's that good. He's just really weak to max airstreams, and doesn't have any damage output. Next we have Sneasel. Sneasel is used for Ice Shards or Surfs because he is extremely weak. You can also do things with Fling with it, which is pretty fun, but yeah, I don't think he's going to really see an increase in usage, but I don't think he's the worst Pokemon of all time. Next we have Piloswine. Piloswine's pretty bulky. He cannot deal with Kyogre, but he can deal with Groudon pretty... actually, he can't deal with Groudon because he's not Fire type anymore. Yeah, Piloswine's not very good anymore. I think he was okay in Series 7, but now he's pretty terrible. Don't use this. Corsola, regular Corsola is really bad. So then we have Galarian Corsola, who I think is D tier, but is usable. Of course, Strength Sap is really good. It gets Calm Mind, it gets Icy Wind, and it can run Eviolite. So it's extremely bulky with Eviolite, and it has, I don't want to say consistent healing, but it does have healing with the Strength Sap. And it's going to be, I think, pretty decent against the Calyrex teams, as it does outspeed both Calyrex and can lower their damage output consistently. So, we'll see. And Octillery is not very good, though he does get extremely good coverage. And he could be just one of those Pokemon that, if you really like Octillery, go ahead and use him. He was my second shiny of all time. My first was Rattata, which turned into Raticate, and then my second one was actually Octillery. So, Delibird, terrible, don't use Delibird. Mantine's so weak to Regieleki, it's really hard to use, but its move pool is actually really, really good, and it's actually pretty fast, and it has really good special defense. It's hard to justify using it, but overall, I don't think it's the worst. Skarmory is really hard to use, but I mean, you could if you really wanted to. Now that Torkolds are going to kind of diminish a little bit, but I don't know. I think that the usage of Kingdra are going to go up, and I think Kingdra is actually really good. It can go next to that Kyogre, and it can set up Airstreams to help the Kyogre become faster. So you can run Choice Specs Kyogre, or you can even run Mystical Water and then Protect on first turn and go for the Airstreams. Yeah. I think Porygon 2 is definitely S tier. It has so many sets. People are running attacking Porygons right now, and were during Players Cup 2. As well as its bulk, it also has the ability to set up Trick Room. It can do pretty good damage, like I said. It comes in and gets +1 special attack. Its coverage moves are insane. Its main move, which is Tri Attack, can burn. It can paralyze or freeze. It doesn't freeze as much, luckily, but it can do all those, and I think it's really really good. Even though I think Hitmontop is better than a D, I'm putting in D because it keeps missing triple axles for me. Miltank is very bulky, but it doesn't really have damage output. You could use it. It is fun. It can milk drink. It has reliable recovery, so you could do something like that. Blissey, once again, also has reliable recovery, but is just not super, super great. Raikou, I don't think is very good, and I don't think is going to be very good, even though it does have that electric typing. It's just, I don't know, it just seems lackluster every time. I think that Entei is actually going to be the best one out of these. I think this is also D tier. Suicune has been lackluster as well. Even though Suicune used to be extremely good in past formats, I think Entei is now the best one. It gets Snarl. It's pretty bulky. You can run Assault Vest. You can run Life Orb. You can run, Weakness Policy on it. It's pretty decent. Next, we have Tyranitar. I think Tyranitar is going to see a slight increase in usage, as a lot of these legendary Pokemon are kind of weak to dark. There's a lot of Psychic. And he kind of walls Calyrex as well. Though Urshifu is crazy against them, to say the least. He is pretty decent. Lugia, I think Lugia is a C tier. No, I'm gonna put Lugia B tier. We faced Lugia on stream the other day that Wheezy was using. It's bulky. It has really good defenses. Its damage output isn't the greatest, but it does do well with weakness policy attached to it. So, and since it has a couple of easy weaknesses to set off, it's not too hard to get it to proc. You can even volt switch yourself, and because he's so bulky, he won't take like any damage when he's max. Aeroblast is insane, though it does have a bit of an accuracy issue. Lugia gets insane coverage, so you can make up with that by using Max Geyser. That way you can use Hurricane instead. But I think Aeroblast is what you're going to want to use because it has a higher chance of crit and does about the same damage. Ho-Oh, I also going to put in B tier. I think it's really good. It's also really bulky. Its one setback is Kyogre. I think Kyogre teams kind of destroy it, and if Kyogre is really, really big, I could see this dropping to like a C tier usage, sort of. But I think Ho-Oh is a lot of fun. Its 50% chance to burn on its move is really good, though it does have a chance of missing, which kind of stinks. It is a really strong move, that Sacred Fire. I'm going to put Sceptile into C tier. Sceptile is really good against Kyogre. It also gets the on Burden plus weakness policy, which is really, really good because you can go for Ice Shards with stuff like the Sneasel to set off that weakness policy to max, to go for max overgrowths and kind of just destroy things. So, yeah. Blaziken and Swampert are both pretty terrible. Swampert needs Swift Swim. He doesn't have Swift Swim. It's pretty weak. Lanoon, both Lanoons are going to be D tier. I think Galarian Lanoon's a little bit better because you can run Eviolite on it. Though Belly Drum, regular Lanoon with extreme speed was fun in the past. I don't know if it still gets that combo, but I really liked it. Ludicolo, I think, is going to see a rise in usage as well. Ludicolo is actually really, really good against Kyogre, as it 4 times resists it. It has bulky special defense, and it also hits back super effective. So, really good. Shiftry, don't use this. Shiftry's terrible. Pelipper, we'll put Pelipper in D tier. It's just a worse Politoed, as it is 4 times weak to electric. So, Regieleki just, Electro Web kills it 100% of the time, unless you do have the Focus Sash on it, but then, yeah. Gardevoir is not very good. You can use it for trace stuff, but other than that, it just damage output is kind of lackluster. Doesn't really add anything to the table. This is terrible. Don't use this. You can do some gimmick teams with the Shreninja. It's not great. Yeah, also not great is Loudred. Sableye, I think Sableye is actually pretty decent. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it's pretty decent. It can do priority burn. It has fake out. It has quash, which could be very significant, especially in the Dynamax form, because it does work on Dynamax Pokemon. So yeah, don't use this. Mowile's pretty bad. Don't use this. This is pretty bad. Manectric is okay. He does get a Lightning Rod, so that's going to be his one boost, but just use Raichu over Manectric. Unless you really like Manectric, then go ahead and use it. This is pretty terrible too, though he does have the Dark typing, so he's going to be really good against Calyrex. And he can outspeed Calyrex after 2 speed boosts. So if you can get 2 speed boosts off somehow, good for you. Alright. Yeah. Wailord's not very good, and he's way too small in the game. I still think that Torkoal is actually really good, especially in Trick Room teams. He's going to be able to come out and kind of set up that sun, allowing you to do some stuff. You can run him in teams that you're not going to use Groudon in, that you still want the sun up, or you can do mixed weather control teams. Like those old Groudon plus Kyogre teams, you could do something like that. So if they're going to go Trick Room, then you can switch to your sun mode kind of thing. Is pretty good. This is bad. His 4 times weakness to ice is just terrible. Altaria, also just terrible. Probably don't use that. These are terrible, though I think Lunatone is just better. Starting to run out of space here. This don't use. It's terrible. He's okay. He can do significant amount of damage. He gets Aqua Jet, and his Dark typing is okay. But his special defense is just terrible. Then we get Claydol. Claydol, he can't be hit by ground or electric, so I mean that's okay. But he is weak to ice. He is weak to ghost, dark. So Credilli, I think Credilli is probably a B tier. You're gonna see a huge rise in Credilli because it kind of walls Kyogre. Ice Beam, of course, does hit it, but he's kind of bulky, and that'll just set off his weakness policy. Or you can go Power Herb, so that way you can go Meteor Beam. You can also go Energy Ball, stuff like that. So he's not bad at all. He's terrible. I think Melodic. People thought Melodic was going to be humongous when it first came out, but it's been lackluster since it has been out. It can do quite a few things. It can coil plus hypnosis and stuff like that, but yeah, it's not great. I still think that Dusclops is really good, though it's going to be harder to use them because of the Calyrex. Setting up Trick Room is going to be a little bit tougher because somebody can go for Expanding Force, Astral Barrage, and it just kills them. So, terrible. This isn't bad. James Beck used the team where it had Belly Drum. I thought it was kind of fun. Do not use this. This is bad. Salamence could see a rise in usage because it does resist both fire and water, and it has that Intimidate that it can set off against some of the other legendaries that might be physical. I think that he's still pretty decent. Metagross, weakness policies Metagross will continue to see play. I think it's just everybody's kind of countering him, but I think Urshifu is going to drop down a little bit in usage. Because it's not very good against Kyogre, and Calyrex and DD kind of walls him out as well. So it's going to be tough. Regirock, I really like Regirock. We're gonna put him in C tier though. He's gonna drop significantly in usage now, but he was good for a little while. Regice is not very good. Registeel has been really decent, and I hate facing every single team that has one of these. I don't think I've won any of those games either. Latios and Latios, just not good. I don't know what it is, because their stats are insane, but then you use them, and it's just like, yeah, this guy sucks. Well, Kyogre, right there, number 1. He's going to be the number 1 Pokemon. at least at the beginning of the format until people can start coming up with some stuff that might be able to beat him. But Kyogre is definitely going to be number one, and I love Groudon. The team I'm using currently is Groudon. I think he's a really high A tier, almost an S tier. I think what holds him back is Kyogre. Huge defense. He just does a ton of damage with Precipice Blaze. Of course, Precipice Blaze can miss. I am using him with Choice Scarf so he can outspeed at least Cinderaces, and I put some bulk into him so that way he can survive hits. Whereas Kyogre is going to set up that rain and just do massive, massive amounts of damage to anything. So that's where Kyogre kind of is. I think Rayquaza is going to be better than people think it's going to be. I'm going to put in B tier. It gets pretty bulky when you do max it. It is not the fastest Pokemon in the world, as it's only 5 speed faster than both Kyogre and Groudon, because it's only 95 base speed, so it's going to still be outsped by things like Zapdos, and things like Mewtwo and stuff like that, and even Charizard outspeeds it. And if Charizard starts running like Dragon Pulse, that's going to pretty much kill Rayquaza, but he can do some stuff. Luxray is not very good. Roserade, not very good. Not very good. I think Cheerum could see a rise in usage. It's going to be really good next to Groudon's, as you can go Choice Scarf Groudon with Cheerum to do massive amounts of damage with the Precipice Blades, or Eruptions rather, and get a special defense boost that's going to help you live. Gastrodon's going to see a rise in usage as well. I don't think it's as good as Credilli. I think Credilli is much, much better because it does hit back the Kyogre for super effective. Though the Gastrodon typing is pretty good too because it is resistant, or it doesn't get hit by those electric attacks. So, and he's really good against Regieleki, as Credilli is not. Drifbloom can continue to see some usage. I think it's really good. It actually is pretty good against Calyrex. It can outspeed it if you just run a Psychic Seed or a Misty Seed or something like that. It can outspeed it and then one-shot it. Lopunny, don't use this. It is terrible. You can use it with Regigigas, but other than that, don't use it. Skuntank, don't use. Pretty terrible. I think we could see... I'm going to put this high D tier. I know I'm putting some of these. Some of these would be higher than some of the other ones, but I think he's almost a C tier. I think he can see a rise in usage again. As he is very bulky and he can set up the Trick Room pretty consistently, and he can't be hit by ground attacks, which ground attacks are going to increase because of Groudon usage. So I think that the usage of I can't think of his name of him is going to increase. Why can't I think of his name? Because he's also good against Zacian, right? So he resists all Zacian's moves, so he could see a rising usage. Spiritom's not very good, though it does get Sucker Punch and stuff. Garchomp I think is actually really good. Garchomp has proven to be really good in these sort of formats in the past, as he is a pseudo-legendary that's very fast and very strong, though his 4x weakness to ice is pretty rough, and yeah, but he can do damage back, and with his ground typing, he can hit a lot of the good stuff. Riolu, I think, is a C tier. Riolu, I think, only got better. With Calyrex Ice, he's pretty decent, because you can max Calyrex Ice, go for the Protect, set up the Trick Room. And then now you have Calyrex Ice out there. Max, you only have 2 turns left, but if he gets a kill, you're getting an attack boost that can't be stopped by Weezing. Which Weezing is also going to be really good on that team as well. That's another one I didn't mention, but yeah, I think Riolu can see a rise in usage with Calyrex Ice. He's terrible. Do not use him. He's not terrible. Hippowdon is not terrible, but he's just not as good as Tyranitar, in my opinion. He's terrible. He's terrible. Abomasnow could see a rise in usage, though I still don't think he's good. I think he's slightly better than Snubble, but Weavile's still not very good. He can do the same thing with the Surf, or he can do the Ice Shard. He's pretty terrible, though he can take a hit, and he kind of does really good against Kyogre. Licky is pretty terrible, though you can go Explosion, a normal gem Explosion. Rhyperior, I think, is pretty decent, but Kyogre is just too strong, and there's going to be a lot of grass Pokemon going around. I really like Tangrowth, I think it's really good. It gets Sleep Powder, it gets Power Whip, um, and it gets Rage Powder. So it's a really fun Pokemon to use, though it has no special defense. Electivire is not great. He's good with the Discharge strats, where you can use Discharge to get his speed up. He's going to be decent against Kyogre. That set is going to be decent against Kyogre, I should say. Magmortar's terrible. Togekiss, I think, is coming back. Togekiss, I think, is a B. There's going to be a lot more dragons in the format, though Zacian does kind of kill it. I saw it take a... I was watching somebody play, and it took a neutral Behemoth Bash from a Zacian, so it can take hits from Zacian. Leafeon, I think Leafeon, it can be good. It never seems to be, but it has Chlorophyll and it can do significant damage. Glaceon's not very good. Mamoswine, I think, will drop in usage now that stuff like Groudon's out, and there's going to be some rain teams, so it's going to just lose its effectiveness, so I think it's going to drop down. Porygon Z, I can see being pretty good because it does do significant damage to pretty much everything. Max Strike does huge amounts of damage and lowers the speed of the opponent Pokemon. But he can also go for max lightnings. He can go for max hailstorms. So he can do a lot of things. He's terrible. Oops, terrible. This could be used with the Tauros strats, so I'm gonna put it into C tier because of that. If you see this thing in Tauros, you know what they're doing. Fan Rotom is terrible. Ice Rotom, I think, is pretty decent. I don't think it's bad. Ice typing seems to be on the rise. Its weakness to Max Knuckle is pretty significant, but as more dragons come out, he's definitely going to be better. Rotom Fire, I think, is probably... I don't want to give it an A. I think it's going to drop down because of the Kyogre teams, but he is really good. Nasty Plot plus Overheat. Grass is... He's not going to really go up in usage. He doesn't really do anything too much. I think Rotom Wash is actually better than Rotom Ice, or it's Refrigerator or whatever. Fridge. But I don't think he's as good as Fire. These are all pretty terrible. One of them is okay, but I think they're all still D tier. I think he's B tier. The Steel typing definitely gives him an advantage there, but he is susceptible to burns, which is the problem. But now he gets Telepathy, so you can use him next to Landorus and go for Earthquakes, which is pretty fun. Palkia, though. Palkia, I think, is going to be an A tier. Palkia is really good. Against a Specs Kyogre, switching in a Palkia with a max Water Spout does like 15%. So, Palkia is really good. I'm actually currently working on Palkia team. That's why I know some of these calcs. It actually takes a hit pretty significantly from Calyrex as well and hits back and kills it. It has really, really good coverage moves. It has everything from water to fire. Has electric, dragon, of course, with its main move. But I think Palkia is going to be really good. Heatran, I think Heatran is actually going to get better. I'm going to put him in B tier for now, but I think he could be an A tier mon. His ability to switch into fire attacks is really, really good, especially if you're running something like Venusaur, or if you're running something like Sceptile teams or something like that. He's going to be really good for those, just to stop the max flares from setting up. Regigigas, I'm going to put Regigigas in S tier. I think he actually improved with this. Because it's going to make Weezing more viable with all these legendaries. A lot of these legendaries have pressure, so having a Weezing doesn't really take anything away from them. It only helps. And having Regigigas is going to significantly help that. Also, Regigigas Max Strike actually one-shots Kyogre. Against Calyrex, all Calyrex can do is either Max Psychic or go for the Expanding Force, because he can't hit it with Astral Barrage. And he kills back with pretty much any attack. So... I think he's going to be really good. Giratina, unfortunately, Giratina is not very good. I want Giratina to be good, but it's good in a 2 legendary format. I don't think anymore. I think before it was. But now it's going to be really hard to use. I think this one's just slightly better. because yeah, he's levitating. Cresselia, I could see Cresselia rising in usage. It's another one of those ones that's super bulky that can set up Trick Room. I just think it's significantly worse than Porygon 2, but if you don't want to be that Porygon 2 guy, you can definitely, or the Dusclops guy, you can definitely go for the Cresselia. He's pretty bad. He does get Intimidate, and he has pretty good coverage, but he's not super good. Liepard, I loved Liepard in 2016, but Liepard has no real usage here. Musharna, same thing. It can set up Trick Room. Do not use Odd Pheasant. Put that here. Braviary is just significantly better. I think he could be pretty decent. Gigalith is... His stats are so good, but for some reason when he gets used, he's not very good. And this meta could change that. Who knows? Who knows? Don't use him. I'm going to put him here because he can do stuff with Simple and all that stuff. I think he could be used. He's going to be around the same usage as Tyranitar, because if you're running Tyranitar, sometimes you're running him, and he's pretty decent against some of the top Mons, but overall, I don't think he's going to be used. Dino is absolutely terrible. Conkeldurr, I can see rising a little bit in usage because there are going to be some more Steel Pokemon, as well as the rise of the Regigigas. We could see some of Seismitoad, because Seismitoad does have Swift Swim. It does have really good coverage moves. Its typing is pretty cool, but yeah, we could see some of that just because of Regieleki is so good. So you can run the Kyogre plus that, and then you can kill the Regielekis pretty easily. Sock and Throw are pretty bad. He's pretty bad. Whimsicott, though, I think Whimsicott's going to be an A. Not only does it get Trick with or Switcheroo, it also does get Tailwind. It gets Taunt, so you can stop the Kyogre setups by taunting the Tornadus, right? But we're going to see a rise in Tornadus is using Mental Herbs because of that. Lilligant, I'm going to put in C tier because it can do some stuff with the Torkoal or even the Groudon, where you can do After Me stuff. Don't use these. These things are awful. This guy's pretty bad too. Don't use him. Pretty bad, pretty bad, pretty bad. I don't even think I don't know if it gets Zen mode, but it's pretty bad. Maracas, don't use Maracas. Don't use Crustle. They're just, oh, I almost put them in A tier. They're just bad. I guess we could see some return of Scrafty, but he's not very good. Sigalith, you can do some stuff with the stored power. Cofagrigus, I think, could be used again because he is bulky, especially, and he can also just set up those Trick Rooms. This thing is terrible. Don't use this. Don't use this. I thought I put him in this tier. All right. Garbodor, G-Mex. I'm gonna put both of these in here. It's poison type. It can be good against Xerneas, but it's not very good. I think he's okay because he can become something else, but overall not good. Not super good, but does have Skill Link and has a lot of moves that can hit multiple times. Gothitelle could see a rise because we could see some Perish Song stuff as bulkier Pokemon do come out. Perish Song can see a rise and some success, so I think it's going to be there. Here's another Pokemon that can set up Trick Room that's pretty bulky, and this one can do actually a lot of damage. I really like Vanillux, though I think it's too frail to really make an impact. Emolga's not super good, though it does get Max Airstream and Max Lightning, which is pretty good combination. We could see a rise in Escavalier because he is pretty decent, but I don't see it. Amoonguss, I think Amoonguss is a B tier. We're going to see slight drop to Feeny, I think, at first. And Amoonguss can kind of pick up that slack where Feeny is now missing. He can start doing some spores and not having to worry. Jellicent, I think Jellicent could see a rise in usage because he does get Water Absorb and Trick Room, and that can counter a lot of the Kyogre teams. He's pretty terrible, though he can put down Sticky Web. I think we could see some Ferrothorns. Ferrothorn is real good against Kyogre as well, though he is weak to the fire stuff, so that's going to kind of keep him in check, but I do like him. Klinklang is pretty bad. Behem is pretty bad. I'm going to say I'm going to say Chandelure is a D tier. I don't think he's going to be used as much as he is now. He's mainly used for Imprison at the moment. Haxosaurus is so bad. I don't know how he's become so bad. Baratic's bad. Cragnol's pretty bad. This has been used to set off weakness policies of Colossal, but I think Colossal's going to be pretty gone now. Don't use these. Do not use these. Their moves are terrible. Yeah, they're just not good. Minxiao. Is Minxiao even in the game? Alright, don't use Minxiao if it's in the game. It might not be in the game. He's not very good. He should be Dark Dragon, in my opinion, but he's not. This is terrible as well. It can do some stuff. It has pretty high attack, but I think we could see a slight rise in Bisharp's usage because it does have that Defiant, and its typing's not too bad, especially against Calyrex. So we could see that go up a little bit more. He's not very good. He's just a worse version of Tauros. Braviary, we could see some Braviaries come back. Braviary was one of the biggest Pokemon in like Series 1, 2, and maybe even 3. But he has dropped out of favor for other things. But I think with the rise of Incineroar, he could come back, and he also does pretty good damage. And he gets Max Strike and Max Airstream. It's not very good. Don't use Heatmore. Heatmore is one of the worst Pokemon. There's still some stuff that you can do with this. You can use Entrainment and give Regigigas Hustle, which is fun. It does a lot of damage, so keep that in mind. Hydreigon used to be really good. It's sad that the Fairy typing has made it drop so far. Though I think you can still do some stuff with Choice Scarf and things like that, especially with all these dragons coming back. He'll do significant damage to him. He also is really good against Calyrex, as he does wall Calyrex pretty hard. Volcarona, you can still do some stuff with Volcarona. Out of these three, I think that the best one is going to be Virizion. I'm going to put Virizion on C, because Virizion's going to be able to do stuff against the Kyogre. You can go beat up with Whimsicott and then pretty much just one-shot Kyogre. I think Virizion will be the best one. Terrakion right now is the best one, and it probably, realistically, will be the best one. But in my opinion, I think Virizion will be the best one. Tornadus A tier for sure. It's going to go pairing well with the Kyogre. It's going to pair well with the Groudon. It's going to do a lot of work. Between him and Whimsicott is going to be like which one you're going to use. Of course, being able to Hurricane when somebody sets up the Rain is going to be really good. And also Heat Wave when somebody has up the Sun is pretty good too. This form is not very good. Thundurus, I think, can continue to see some usage. I'm going to put it in B tier. I think we might see some Prankster. Thundurus is coming back with the Thunder Wave, but we will see. This form's not too bad, but it's not going to see as much usage, of course. Reshiram. Reshiram, I think, is going to be a high B. I think Reshiram's really good. Its moves are really good. It has multiple options. It has very good coverage. And when it maxes, it's going to be really, really bulky. Zekrom, I don't think is going to be very good, but I'm going to put him in C tier because he can do some stuff, and he's really good against the Kyogre teams, so we'll see how that goes. I think this Landorus is probably also C tier, as it does do significant amounts of damage, and it is pretty fast, but is also really weak. This Landorus is going to stay in A tier. I don't think it's quite an S tier, but against Zacian teams and Groudon teams and stuff like that, he's going to be really good. He's also really good against the Weezings and stuff like that. So, regular Kyurem, no, you're not going to use regular Kyurem. Kyurem Black, no. Kyurem White, though, I think Kyurem White is going to be a C. I think it's pretty good. Its special attack is absolutely insane. Its typing is really bad, but I think people can use it to some success and have fun using it. I think it's going to be one of those really fun Pokemon to use. Diggersby, though, is don't use it. I think Talonflame might see some usage. People trying to relive those, 2017 vibes that might want to use them. Pangoro, do not use Pangoro. Now, I don't remember which one's male or female. Oh, no, I don't remember, but this one is bad. Don't use this one. Use this one. This one, you could do Prankster skill swap onto a Moongus to give a Moongus priority spores. So if that's something you're interested in, do that. Aegislash, he still continued to not see usage, though I don't think he's super, super terrible. These are pretty bad, though. Slurpuff does get Belly Drum, which is always fun. Malamar's pretty bad as well, though he is a lot of fun to use. Don't use this thing. This thing is terrible. Dialga is not super great either. Its typing is really bad. I would probably put it in the don't use. This thing is really bad as well. There's just better water types. This thing could see some usage as it's good against both Kyogre and on the Groudon teams. So it could see a little bit rise in usage, though I think it's going to be one of those, hey, here's a surprise kind of Pokemon. I like Tyrantrum. I just wish he was good. I'm going to put him in D tier, though. This could be decent. It does get hail warning or whatever it's called, snow warning. It also gets refrigerate, so it can do massive damage to some of the legendary Pokemon. I think Sylveon might see a rise in usage. It is pretty bulky and does significant damage to a lot of the new legendaries. This thing is terrible. Don't use this. This thing is also terrible. Don't use this. This thing is terrible. I know there was a successful team that used it, but it's not good. Sliggoo with Eviolite is pretty bulky. It gets really good coverage moves. But sometimes you'll see people using it, but it's not super great. Weakness policy on Goodra is pretty decent. You might see some of that going around, but I don't think it's super great either. Klefki could set up screens and stuff, but I feel like at the moment there's just better usages of those Pokemon. Both of these aren't very good, though Harvest is pretty decent, so you might see some of that. Do not use Avalugg. He is real bad. Noivern, he's fast, and he could, Draco Meteor, he has max Airstream, he gets Hurricane, so he could see a little bit of usage if somebody's trying to do a surprise tactic. Xerneas, hot take, B. I don't think Xerneas is going to be nearly as good now that there's a Dynamax sort of format. I just think that Kyogre is going to be much better, as is Groudon. Because one of the problems with the Xerneas is it doesn't have that second restricted next to it to help protect it from the steel types. You could do something like Rotom Heat next to it, though it's still going to be a struggle. Indeedee is really good next to it, though a Rillaboom is also going to help mitigate that a little bit as well. So it'll be tough to see how it actually works. Next, Yveltal. Yveltal is probably the second or third best Pokemon in the format. It is insane. Its coverage is insane. Its bulk is insane. You can run Assault Vest. You can run Weakness Policy. He's just way better than a Moltres. His Oblivion Wing heals him back. He could be physical or special. You can run a mix set without even having to invest. Sucker Punch with no investment one-shots max Calyrex. So, yeah, Yveltal teams are going to be something that you're all going to have to prepare for sure. He's going to be a really tough Pokemon to beat in a lot of situations. This is going to be just normal Zygarde. I think normal Zygarde is not very good. But if you're using Power Construct Zygarde, that's what I'm going to use this one for. I think it could be about a B tier Mon. Maxed, he has so much HP, and if you can get off a weakness policy on him, it's going to be insane amounts of damage. It's going to be hard for you to activate your own your own Power Construct, but if you are able to do it, he's going to be really good. Decidueye is not super great. He was great at one point in like Series 6 or whatever. Incineroar is an S tier Mon. He was probably A tier Mon in Series 7, but I think he's going to be an S tier Mon. He's going to be the most used, I think he's going to be the most used Pokemon, period. But non-legendary Pokemon, I think he's going to be the biggest threat. We've been seeing Assault Vest Incineroars that have been making significant splashes in the meta. I think we're going to continue to see that, as well as just Snarl being so good at the moment and going forward, because he kind of walls Xerneas because there's not really much somebody can do to it. So he kind of walls Xerneas, He kind of walls, Kyogre. If Trick Room's up, he can get some snarls off, and if he can get the sun or get rid of the rain, he kind of walls there. Like Reshiram, what does Reshiram do against him? Though he is weak against a few of the Pokemon that are coming up, but also Calyrex, he walls Calyrex. I don't think she's very good. Charjabug, you could do some stuff with Charjabug. Of course, his ability is great, but he's not very good. Same with Victavolt. You could do some speed swap stuff with Ribombee. That's always fun. You can speed swap stuff like, just big threats against their team. You can just have a team full of random threats. All these guys are not great. Wishy-Washy, don't use this Pokemon. This Pokemon is terrible. Don't use this either. This thing is pretty terrible. Horse could see something. Mudsdale could do something. This thing could be really good. I'm going to actually put this in C tier. Next to Kyogre, this thing might be really, really good, as its ability pretty much doubles its attack, plus the rain, plus all the... It could do a lot of damage, can't be burnt either, which is pretty good. I almost lost one of these, a contrary one, where the guy was just lowering his own stats to boost it up. This thing's not very good. This thing, don't use this. Salazzle's just pretty bad. Beware's not very good, though he could see some usage. He's kind of bulky. This thing has a really good ability. It's just not very good. Comfey. Now, I think Comfey's a B. Comfey's going to allow you to set off all of your stuff. It can also get Trick Room. It can heal your Pokemon. So this is going to be a good Pokemon with the Zygarde, or it's going to be a really good Pokemon with the Yveltal, or even right now, the Moltres. To get those priority draining kisses, and the only Pokemon that can really fake it out is Raichu. So yeah, it's pretty good. Oranguru can see a rise in usage because if you can set up Trick Room and you're a really slow Kyogre, I actually used this back in the day. Really slow Kyogre, set up Trick Room, and then you can just double Water Spout every turn is a lot of fun. He's not super great, though his receiver ability is pretty decent. I think Golisopod can see a increase in usage. He does get Wide Guard. He also gets First Impressions. I think he gets Aqua Jet as well, so he can hit for some good priority moves. And he might also get Sucker Punch, even. Sandcastle's not very good. This is not very good. I don't think these are good, but I think Type Null is okay because he does get the Eviolite, and then the other one's good because you can go Normal Gem Explosion. This thing is pretty terrible, but I think it could still some usage. Togedemaru's not good, but it could see some stuff because it does have that Lightning Rod. Raichu's just better though overall. Mimikyu, I'm gonna put Mimikyu here only because Mimikyu can Shadow Sneak. It could Sword Dance Shadow Sneak against Calyrex, but other than that, it's not very good. Drampa, not super great. This thing's not very good. Don't use this thing, but I'm gonna put it here because it's okay. I think we could see a rise in Koko. I'm going to put Koko in C tier. I think with the Discharge against Kyogre and stuff, I think it's pretty good. Lele could see an increase in usage as well, because it's pretty decent and it can set up that Psychic Terrain. Bulu is pretty bad. Feeny, I think Feeny's still going to be good. I just don't think it's going to be as good. Like, right now, I would put Feeny probably in S tier in Series 7, but I think it's going to be an A tier. As Kyogres get big, people are not going to want to run Kyogre plus the Feeny on the same team because it's kind of tough. Even Yveltal teams probably don't want to run the Feeny, but I don't know. It'll be something to see. Don't use these. Don't use these. These things are absolutely terrible. I mean, this one you can use Eviolite and go Cosmic Power and then Psych Up, but Soleo I think is actually pretty good. I'm gonna put him in B tier. He's just a better Metagross. So wait, where did I put Metagross? Oh yeah, right here. So yeah, he's just a better Metagross, as he is the same typing except just stronger than Metagross and faster. Lunella, I don't know. People are talking about Lunella. I'm going to put it in C tier because people are talking about it. I don't know what they're talking about, but yeah, people are saying stuff about it. Nihilego, I really like Nihilego. I'm going to put Nihilego in B. I think it's really good, and it hits a lot of the Pokemon like Yveltal and Charizard and stuff like that for super effective, and it's faster than those Pokemon. So it could be really, really good. And also hits Xerneas for super effective. Buzzhole. All right, hot take. Buzzhole. He's not good. I want him to be good. I love Buzzhole. I like the toxic green Buzzhole. I'm gonna put Pheromosa in B because in C because of Speed Swap. I think Speed Swap's gonna be really good. Ice Horse Speed Swapped is gonna be kind of stupid, so I'll look for that. Circuitry is not very good. Its special attack is stupid, but it's not very good. I think that Celesteela is going to drop a little bit. I would say Celesteela right now is probably a B, but I think it's going to drop to a C, and you're going to see a lot more support Celesteelas. Kartana, though. Kartana is going to rise. I know it's already doing pretty good, but I think Kartana is going to be an A now. It's so good against Kyogre, and it's also good on Kyogre teams, so it has both of those going for it. This thing is fun. If you want to have fun, use this. Regular Necrozma, not very good. This thing, not very good. But this thing is actually pretty good. I'm gonna put this probably an A tier. I think it's slightly better than Solego, but it can be intimidated. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I'm gonna put it right next to it because it, like I said, it can be intimidated, though it is slightly stronger. Naganadel. I think Naganadel can see some more usage. It is very fast and does a lot of damage, so I'm going to put it in C tier. Stakataka, though. Stakataka, I think, is going to be an A tier. With some of these mons that are coming out, he's really good against. Like, Stakataka kind of just destroys Xerneas teams. Xerneas can't really hit it for any super effective damage, and Xerneas' best usage is going to be Max Steel Spike against it. And even that is, like, I don't know. It'll do significant amounts of damage, of course, but under Trick Room, a Gyro Ball is just going to straight up just kill. So, Blasphedon. I think Blacephalon, I always say his name wrong, but Blacephalon could be pretty decent. You can use it on quite a few teams. I was doing some calcs with it plus Palkia, and yeah, it looks like kind of fun with Palkia. All right, Rillaboom. I'm gonna put Rillaboom A tier. I think regular Rillaboom is A tier for sure, but we'll just talk about both of them because I think Gmax Rillaboom is S tier. I think Rillaboom continues to be one of the best Pokemon in the format. Of course, being able to set up that terrain and go for the grassy glides at such a high power is kind of insane. It can run Assault Vest, Choice Band, Life Orb. It can run berries. It can run Cobra Berry. It can run a ton of different things. It does massive damages to Pokemon that it's not even super effective against. You can run like something like Assault Vest with Knockoff to kill Calyrex, which is kind of insane. He's just really, really good. Though I would run the max one just in case you do need to max, like endgame or something like that. Though you could run this one. We'll just put them both here. Because you could run this one and set up your grassy terrain again. So you can grassy glide after. So, yeah. I think Cinderace is C tier. We're going to see kind of a drop in Cinderace, I think, for a little bit. And I also think that this one is also... I think they're about equal because he can set up the sun, whereas this one just has a really high damaging move. I think both of these are pretty bad. You can do some gimmick teams with them, but overall, I just think they're bad. This thing is pretty bad. This thing, do not use. Do not use the Gigantamax Corviknight. Corviknight is just better. Just use him. This thing could be fun. It's pretty bulky. Its weaknesses are pretty bad, but yeah, it's fun. All these are the same. You can run Eviolite on that one. This thing has Unburden and Thief, so that could be fun. You could do stuff with that. I love Eldegoss. Eldegoss is probably my favorite Pokemon from this generation. Its ability is super cool, but it's just not super great. It does get Sleep Powder as well, which is fun. Double, you can do some stuff with Iron Defense. This thing is never panned out. And its typing is really bad because it is that Water Rock. This thing is terrible. Don't use this thing. There's just way better options. Now, here we go. Coalossal, right? Coalossal. He was so good. He's won 2 Players' Cups, right? I don't think he's good anymore. I'm going to put him in D tier. I think the introduction of Kyogre, who's just going to one-shot him no matter what, just kind of kills any usage that he can possibly get, as well as him not being able to kill things like Palkia very well, or any other Pokemon that has a pretty good special defense that isn't weak to him, even at +2, is going to be able to really tank hits from him. Because all these dragons are going to resist most of his moves, so I think that he is almost officially dead. There could be some resurgence of him. I wouldn't be surprised, but these things are pretty bad. For some reason, only one of these is here, but they're all pretty bad. Sandaconda also pretty bad. I think G-Max Sandaconda is better. If you're going to use it, just use a G-Max. His move traps and does damage. So I want this thing to be good, but it's really bad. Barraskewda is really fast, and he has a move where it can't be redirected, and he also has Swift Swim, so you could use it in something like this. This is the best one, I think, or is it the blue one? I don't know. One of these is better than the other one, but they're both pretty bad. This thing's pretty bad. We saw Sagen Park using this, but it's not very great. I wish this thing was good, but it's not. Same with the Teacup. So I think that regular Hatterene is probably a D, but I'm going to put G-Max Hatterene actually in C tier. I think the Confusion is really good. There's going to be a lot of strong physical attacking Pokemon, and there's going to be a lot of dragons, so Hatterene could see some usage increase. Morgrem is not super great, though you can use him if you want to not use Grimmsnarl. So Grimmsnarl, just in general, I'm gonna put in S tier. I think he is an S tier mon. He gets Trick with Lagging Tail or Incense, and he also gets Screen. So he's very viable, and then that's gonna include this one as well. Though you're never really gonna max him. I guess if you're going G-Max, we'll say that G-Max is like a physical build. You're going to go for attacking, so that's probably going to be a D tier. But the Prankster build with, like I said, Lagging Tail, he gets Fake Out. Spirit Break is really good against special attackers as well. Yeah, I'd put him S tier. I think he's definitely S tier. He gets Defiant, but he's not very good. This thing could see some usage next to Zacian because he does power up the steel type moves. Cursula I wish was good. I really love the design of Cursula. Don't use this. This guy's bad. Mr. Rime. Oh, that's not Mr. Rime. Mr. Rime, he gets Screen Cleaner, which is pretty good, but overall he's just kind of meh. He doesn't do a lot of damage. Runaringus, he's okay, but he has too many weaknesses. Alcremie, I really like Alcremie. I think its G-Max form is much better, but yeah, Decorate is really good. This thing I wish was good as well. I really like the design of that, but it's just kind of meh, and it's no retreat, makes it so you can't switch, which is kind of crappy, and you can only use it once. This thing's pretty bad. It sets up electric terrain, but other than that, this thing do not use. This thing is really bad. It does get Wide Guard, I believe, though. So. Stonejourner, I like Stonejourner. I don't know. His special defense being 25 base is what kills him. But his power spot increasing the damage of the other Pokemon by 30% is kind of nuts. Ice-Q, another Pokemon I wish was good. Indeedee, I think Indeedee is in A tier. Indeedee you're going to see on a lot of teams because it really helps a lot of the Pokemon, but it itself isn't super great. Indeedee male, I'm going to put in B tier because After You Trick Room is going to be a pretty big thing, I think, going forward here too. This thing is pretty bad. This thing is really bad. Don't even use this one. If you're going to use it, just use the max one. I think he could continue to see some usage. I don't think he's going to see usage like he used to, so I'm going to put him in C tier, but he is pretty good against Kyogre as he does resist Kyogre, as well as be able to hit it back for super effective. This thing is not super great, though you could see it. Dracovish, however. I think Dracovish is going to go up in usage. It's really good against the dragons because it can go for, Dragon Claw or something like that and do huge damage if you're Choice Banded. So, Arctovish, though, I don't think you'll see much. This thing is terrible. Never use this thing. That is so bad. I think we could see some Duraludon. Duraludon's pretty good. He's just never he's been good, but he's never been like that next level good, right? So hopefully he'll be able to get there soon. I think Dragapult is probably an A tier. He is really good, and he's only going to get better now that he outspeeds pretty much every single one of the legendaries that just came out. He is weak against Calyrex and gets outsped by Calyrex, but he does get Sucker Punch, and also if you could just give him one speed boost, he will outspeed and one-shot Calyrex, so do a lot with that. This is just the base form. I'm just going to put the base form. Wait, is this the base form? Wait, what's this? What's this one? What's this? No. Oh, that's the base form for Zamazenta. Hold on. Don't use the base forms. Though I think this base form is actually usable. I'm going to put it here. But don't use it. Because it's not good. I'm going to put hot take Zacian in A tier. I don't think it's that great. I think it's way overhyped. But overall, I don't think it's going to be super, super great. Against Calyrex Shadow, it just pretty much gets one-shot. Helping Hand plus Astral Barrage kills it. So in a lot of situations, of course, you can spec him out to make sure that he lives, stuff like that. But he does not live a Max Phantasm with a Helping Hand. He doesn't even live a Max Phantasm unless you spec him. Excuse me. As for Zamazenta, I think he's going to be C. He's not super great. I wouldn't use him over most of the restricteds, but he does get things like Wide Guard, and he does get that defense boost, which could be pretty good as well. Here's another hot take. I think Eternatus is an A tier. Eternatus, like, people don't realize what his stats are yet. 140 base HP, 145 special attack, 130 speed with 95 defenses. He's pretty good. He can run Assault Vest. He has pressure, so you can run him with stuff like the Wheezing to stop your opponent's abilities and stuff like that. So these Urshifu forms, I would just put here. Oh, there's only one Urshifu. Okay, we'll use this to distinguish then. Okay, so Dark Urshifu. So I would put Dark Urshifu in A tier. I think he's going to continue to be really good. He is going to see some drop in usage as he's not very good against the Indeedee Calyrex lead. But you could still use him in those leads because you can go for, you know, the Wicked Blow plus the, you know, switch into like Rillaboom. But the problem is you're going to hit the Indeedee and then you're going to take a hit and then you're going to be in trouble. And then the Water Urshifu, I think Water Urshifu is probably C tier. I think he's going to continue to see some usage. We're just going to put this up over here. I think he's going to continue to see some usage, especially on teams maybe with Kyogre, or teams against Groudon or something like that. So I think he'll still be pretty good. Regieleki, also an A tier. I don't think he's quite an S tier. I think there's a lot of Pokemon that do wall him or just don't care about him, and if it's a Trick Room team, he's kind of meh. So yeah, he'll be able to set up like one screen and then die, or have to switch out. Regidrago, I'm gonna put in C tier. I like Regidrago. I just think the problem with him is that he just can't really take a hit. But he does significant damage, and teams that get him to work really well. Glastrier. I'm putting Glastrier in A tier. I think Glastrier is still really good because you can run Glastrier without taking a spot for one of your restricteds. And he kind of feels like a restricted. And you could set up Trick Room with something like Porygon and have him just come in and wreak havoc. Spectrier, I'm going to put into B tier. I think Spectrier is really good because it can beat the Calyrex Shadow. And it could do that by, you know, Regieleki plus Shadow Ball. Though that's one use case, and if they do have the Indeedee, it kind of shuts that down. But I don't think it's a bad mon, and I think it'll still be viable. Once again, same thing. Doesn't take one of your restricted spots. Kind of feels like a restricted Pokemon. So Calyrex, don't use this Calyrex. It has 100 HP, but 80 base. Everything else, don't use it. Okay, so here's the last two. Okay, we've been talking about them. Shadow's number 2 Pokemon. I think Kyogre's number 1 Pokemon. Shadowrex, number 2. He's just really good. Astral Barrage is insane. He gets Expanding Force, Stab Expanding Force. With Indeedee, you can get those Expanding Forces off early, which actually are higher damage output than the what's it called? Than the Astral Barrage, because of the way that the terrain boosts the move. plus the stab, plus the way that the move works by getting boosted itself. So it's essentially like almost 200 power, which is pretty crazy. And yeah, he's just really good. You can run a Life Orb on him, or you can run Focus Sash. Either way, he's going to be able to do a lot of damage. As you can see from my Wolfie GS Cup run, I used both Kyogre and Calyrex. As I had said, they were probably the two best. And I think they're going to continue to be the two best. Though Yveltal does kind of wall him, and you're going to see a lot of that. And my Yveltal might take that number 2 spot, but I think Calyrex is going to be something that you're going to have to worry about, because if it could just one-shot random Pokemon that you don't think it's going to die to. Then, hot take, Calyrex is an A tier. I think he's obviously better than the horse, and his ability to set up his own Trick Room is really, really good. You can run him next to Indeedee as well to set up those Trick Rooms, or, like I said earlier, you can use the Copycat Riolu to max and protect to set up that Trick Room. Yeah, I think that's really good. He does have 50 base speed, but his defenses have significantly increased, as has his attack. His attack increased all the way up to 165, which is kind of nuts. He does about 1 billion damage, and yeah, his Glacial Lance is a spread move. You can run Weakness Policy on him, so you can run a team with him and Glastrier. Run Weakness Policy on him and Assault Vest or Life Orb on Glastrier, and you can kind of just sweep through people's teams with just those two if you can get it set up properly. You can also run him next to something like the Stakataka to just give you that viability against stuff like Xerneas. But yeah, kind of insane. Though his one weakness is going to be fire, so Torkoal is going to be really good, but that's why you run the Politoed. So that way you can switch in the Politoed and you will not even get close to dead. So I've run the Kelks. He doesn't even get close to dead from a max eruption in the rain. It does about, I think, like 30-something%. And that's, yeah, that's not bad. And then you get off your weakness policy. And then, yeah. So, but anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my tier list. So S is going to be Kyogre, Calyrex Shadow, Yveltal, Incineroar, Charizard, which is a hot take people might not agree with, of Shuckle. Then we got Porygon 2. Then we got the Regigigas, Rillaboom, just Rillaboom in general, and then Grimmsnarl. So I think that is my S tier for sure. The A tier looks pretty strong too. We're going to build teams around a lot of these Pokemon, especially the lower ones. You know how I like to roll. I like to use some of the lower tier Mons. There's not really there's not too many restricteds in here, and the only reason why like Dawn Wings is in here is because it's 4 times weak to Calyrex, 4 times weak to Ghost and Dark. In general, it's just really rough in this current format. The only reason why Calyrex can get away with it is because it's so fast. But yeah, I think that is a good list for me, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. It was a very long one. How long? An hour and 40 minutes. So if you did sit through this, well, kudos to you. I'm guessing a lot of you guys are going to skip through it, but if you did sit through the whole thing, leave a comment down below. Tell me that you sat through the whole thing. But thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it, and I hope each and every one of you have a great day.